thank you everyone for coming to the last session of the conference. It's great to see everybody here. We have a very exciting panel today. We have leading experts in AI, in security industry, who will kind of walk us through how security and Gen AI is coming together and solving customer problems. So I'll start with the introductions with the panelists. In the end, we will also leave 10-15 minutes for questions, so we'll be kind of happy to take any questions you have. The only request will be kind of go towards the mic as you ask your questions. So first, I'll start with Howie. I think with Palo Alto Networks, we have had a relationship for the last 6 years. We started, with initially getting their VM series firewall products onto Google Cloud. Then the relationship grew into having their SaaS services, Cortex and Prisma Access on Google Cloud. We've been working very closely together to solve problems for security practitioners. And it's great to kind of keep working with Palo Alto on the Gen AI space as well to bring the innovations into the market. So Howie, if you could introduce yourself and your role at Palo Alto.
Howie, Senior Vice President of Engineering and AI Machine Learning. As we going to discuss the generative AI stuff this session, we are going to do a lot more stuff with Google, on this technology.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ashvin, next to Howie, I think Ashvin is from Thales. We have been working with Thales for many, many years. A very important partner on the key management, external key management space. Was critical for Google and Thales to work together to make sure folks who are in more regulated countries, who have banking and so forth, to bring those solutions that we did many years ago. We also work very closely with them on sovereign cloud use cases. As sovereignty becomes important and part of what companies need, we collaborate very closely on that. So Ashvin, if you could introduce yourself and your role.
First of all, thank you, Vineet, for inviting me up to this panel. Great to be here, and thank you, everyone. My name is Ashvin Kamaraju, and I lead worldwide engineering for a business line called Cloud Protection and Licensing for a company called Thales, and we're part of a broader global business unit that does digital identity and security.
Perfect. Thank you. And moving on to Joe, I think Joe works for Broadcom Symantec, and we've been working with Symantec for many, many years as well. As you guys may have also heard, Symantec moved almost completely onto Google Cloud, so all the Symantec services now run on Google Cloud. We have been collaborating for many, many years on building the next generation of services and innovating in many different areas in security. So thanks to Symantec and Broadcom to work with us on the Gen AI space as well. So Joe, your introductions.
Yeah, Joe Chen, Symantec Enterprise, Broadcom. Super excited to be here. Thanks, Vineet. My team at Broadcom, I lead the Symantec endpoint protection, threat intelligence, and the Symantec security response team. We are engaged with customers and attackers 24/7, and we also, can take pride in turning math and science into actionable applications. So I'm very excited to be part of this panel.
Perfect. Thank you. So I think jumping straight in on the meat of the discussion is, what use cases where Gen AI can deliver the most value in security. There are many, many areas where Gen AI can help. So starting with you, Howie, what use cases and problems you're looking at where Gen AI can really help, and what kind of solutions you're thinking of bringing to the market?
Sure. So just to set the stage a little bit, Palo Alto Networks is the largest independent cybersecurity firm on the planet. As a company, we have multiple pretty wide security products. In particular, there's a more traditional networking security, but zero trust, the SASE, kind of the form factors. And then there's a cloud security, right? And then there's a SOC platform for the security, the SOC teams. And then there are a bunch of other things. So when it comes to generative AI, the way we think about generative AI is that we want the generative AI to redefine, reimagine how customers are going to interact with our products. Customers interact with our products, in many different ways. From the day they are evaluating, installing, configuring the products, all the way to troubleshooting, maybe customer support. There's a whole life cycle, right? And we wanted to really, redefine that. Customer support is one of the use cases that probably a lot of different industries, everyone's talking about. That's an easy one. So I can start with that, right? Today, if people want to file a ticket, they need to gather a lot of the information, right? With the generative AI, we wanted a customer to be able to, use natural language interface, pretty, simplified view, right? And then there's more magic done, by the generative AI. Now, generative AI, as opposed to more traditional AI, one of the things, the big difference of the generative AI is it has a lot of the logic, or it has the, the reasoning capability, and it has the programming capability. So it's not just people call it a large language model, right? Language model, it's actually, in some ways, a misnomer, because it's not just for language or natural language. It's actually doing a lot more than that, reasoning capability, the automation. So in particular, right, if customers having some issues, we want, some correlation to be done. We want some reasoning to be done. We want that to be done behind the scene for customers, so that, customer don't have to struggle. Okay, looking at this stats, looking at that stats, let me actually figure out what do I do, how should I, what should I tell my vendor, all that kind of things. So that's just the customer support. So it's more than just I give you a chatbot, right, a natural language interface. There is a lot of the reasoning capability we want to leverage. So that's just, that's one. The other thing is, most of our customer, they use our, whether data lake or whatnot, they have a lot of telemetry, they have a lot of the configuration, they have a lot of data with us. And we want them to be able to talk to the data, almost directly, so that they can see what's the value. Today, or in the past, there's always some workflow, right? You can click this button, you go through some workflow, you see, hey, how many threads I have in the last 24 hours, all that sort of things. However, those workflows, there's a limited workflow, and how to navigate them, it's not necessarily easy, right? Probably all of you, at some point of your career, you use the Microsoft Word at some point, right? And you probably only use 1% of the feature, or 10% of the feature at most. And same thing with any other enterprise software product, including the cybersecurity. So we wanted our customer to be able to navigate our products easier, so that, maybe a lot of the workflow is already there. We can help you to navigate via the natural language interface. Maybe the workflow is not there, but we have the telemetry there. Now you have an interface to the product, so that you can actually talk to the product. You can talk to the data directly, figuring out, we have one customer, the other day asking us, hey, we have this product called ADAM, basically a digital experience, sort of the monitoring and the management, sort of the software, very, very useful for people to know what's going on, right? With the Zoom, Zoom call, or some security issues, health, all that sort of thing. The customer wanted to know, hey, for all my customers, for all my users in London, tell me, what's going on. Sure, we actually have a workflow doing exactly that. But what if my users in London and, those people who work from home, we don't quite have the workflow, doing that. In the past, the customer has to talk to the product manager talking to the, engineering team, prioritize that, maybe have a release in 3 weeks, 3 months, or 6 months, depending on the life cycle of the product. That's a process. Now, because we have the data already there, and then we have this generative AI layer, right? The Copilot or assistant, different, the industry, people call it different ways. We haven't officially launched and announced it. That's why I want to sort of stay vague on the naming part. But, the co-pilot concept, has been there, right? Having that co-pilot thing, between the data and then the user, now you can actually talk to the data directly. You get a visibility. You get insights directly. That's a huge revolution.
And it's amazing to hear, there's so many different use cases in security where GenAI will help. Everything from reducing the toil, the tasks that are repetitive, maybe better security detection use cases are there as well as what Howie was talking about, bringing expertise through LLMs that is harder to get by hiring more people. So there are many, many areas. It's great to hear. Palo Alto is looking into such a broad array of solutions on GenAI.
We can get to the soccer sort of the use case a little bit later, but I already give two very concrete use cases just now, right? One is the customer support, right? How to speed up the support, and then the other one is for the user to talk to the data directly. But it's more than that, right? That you think about the day zero, day one, day end experience. Every single step of the way you are doing, if you have the assistant or co-pilot assisting you, so many good things could happen.
Perfect, thank you. So Ashwin, how was kind of Thales thinking about, there was an announcement on Cypher Trust already using GenAI. So it'll be exciting to hear what you guys are thinking.
Sure. First, let me start with what our portfolio is like, at least in our business line. So we have data security products, which is a lot of the encryption and key management, and that sort of addresses a lot of the sovereignty requirements. We have identity and access management, as well as software monetization, which does more licensing and title management, revenue insights. We've been a great partner, right? For over 4.5 years, we've been on a journey, both in terms of our services being hosted on GCP, as well as go-to-market type of partnerships. And as a company, our parent company, Thales, operates the sovereign cloud for Google in France. I think there was a session a couple of days ago. And also, we are leading sort of a company in data security. And you might have gone to a presentation a couple of days ago on the keys to the kingdom. Those are encryption keys. But beyond that, we have a device-to-cloud strategy. So we offer hardware, software, and as-a-service type of products. And we started thinking about generative AI and how that can be used in various aspects in our business line, and similar to what we said. First, there was a project in marketing. Then we thought about customer support. How do we use it in our products? And also, how do we think about cloud security posture management, right, for all our public-facing cloud services? And in marketing, the project they chose was, how do we use the information we have to actually create a superior customer experience, like a buyer's guide, targeted for their industry, right, our vertical. And that's what we're working on. So it's really a conversational infobot that we're building that'll tailor to the customer's questions. We haven't yet started anything in the customer support area. That's next. But what I want to talk about is really, what are we doing in the product space, which is a little bit more complex, and how do we actually make that available in the products to provide a differentiated value proposition. So one of the products we have in our portfolio is, in the Cypher Trust platform, is data discovery and classifications. So data privacy, sovereignty, all that is extremely important in the face of a growing number of regulatory requirements, not only here, but all over the world. Every country is very, very serious about it. And we have a product that provides the discovery of the sensitive data, on all of the customer data assets, and classifies that into based on info types, right? Is this PCI data, or is this HIPAA data? Is this PII? For various different reasons. And that information can be used by the CISO or the compliance officer to find out where they have vulnerability in terms of exposed sensitive information and remediate that, right? So how do we do that? So we've been using regular expressions, which is kind of a well-known, search or scan method to do pattern matching and then derive where the sensitive information is. But it fails when it gets into complex variations across different types of files and repositories. And we want to tie it all back together, right? Like a person's information is in very many different repositories. So that's when we started exploring, named entity recognition type of techniques, machine learning, and how do we build some models. And one of the sort of problems we have is we don't have enough of a corpus of data, right, to train our models. And we definitely have to ship with some pre-trained models, but also create a framework in which customers can start training new models on their data. And another challenge we face is customers don't like their data to leave their premise, right? Or at least they want to know what are the guardrails in place. Is this meeting all the data residency requirements? Is it not going into some other country? We have to address all of those. And that's where, I think we had aha moment and looked at generative AI from Google, and we kicked off a collaborative project. And we're still early, but we had some great, early success. We leveraged the Vertex AI and the Model Garden and the feature stores and the LLMs there to pre-train our own models, right? And so that we can create that pipeline, and then we can take that model and deploy it on the endpoints with our customers, right? And so the success is we actually built a text classifier model. And we, of course, being early, we ran into some bumps, right? The Vertex AI embedded text processing engines only parse text, pure text, or tabular data, right? Whereas in reality, you have data in so many different formats, right? Whether it's PDFs or Excels or any of these things, right? So we worked around it, and we used an Apache Tika to actually be able to go as part of our data preparation and sort of prepare the embeddings and all that stuff. So that was one. And we, of course, give feedback, and because we collaborate and help Google also to improve based on customer requirements. We also sort of experimented with document AI, and sort of the limitation was more PDFs only or images only. But we're sort of looking at that as well and how we can use that. And I was at one of the sessions a couple of days ago. I'm very excited. They're building generative AI application extensions, right? So the LLMs sort of have stale data, presumably, right? But how do you provide more real-time or customer-related information, context to these LLMs? So they're allowing us app developers to actually write APIs that the LLMs can call, so they can complement whatever they come up with to have better, more insightful context, right? So we're looking at all of these, and the journey continues, and we're excited.
Thank you, and there's a lot of exciting innovation happening, and I think the key is working together. There's innovation that's already on the table. There's more innovation that will come out of Google that will help.
Right.
But the key is, for the security practitioner, we are trying to work with the key players in the industry and figure out how can we take security in the next level. How can LLM reduce the effort it takes to kind of secure your companies, and it makes it easier, and so you can do more with the products than investments you already have.
Right.
With that, Joe, I think there was exciting announcements yesterday around Semantic using Gen AI. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the use cases, the problems you're solving, and how you're going to use Gen
Before
AI?
I start, I'll say there's one use case Ashvin mentioned I kind of resonate with me. Like in the age of Google Nextcloud, you are also solving some problem and some of the hardest on-prem problems, right? So Like supporting your on-prem is certainly not a hindrance, but also like you make sure these large investments where regulation, privacy is a large concern. We're bringing along with them. So that's certainly part of our consideration. So not too long ago, maybe feels like years now, if in the age of generative AI, there was Black Hat here, right? So you attend here, a lot of excitement. Every single company here had a spin on generative AI somehow, somewhat at their booth, right? Largely leads to a demo to a sales team, right? So when we return to the team, internally in the organization, you see the same thing. Engineers excited, PM excited, right? Customers asking about it. Customers expects us, all of us, to use best of breed, right? Also expects us to use latest tools, right? So you have to really respond and see how we're thinking about it. And now, see, at a position as a security vendor, we have many challenges. We, in some ways, are infrastructure software. We enable the largest enterprises. Some of them have larger development houses, than us, right? So how do you make sure they can safely leverage this technology now is ubiquitous, including the attackers, right? Ubiquitous in such a way that they can use it safely. Do they have concerns about data privacy? Yeah, absolutely they do. Same thing we do. Hallucination? Yes, we all do, right? So on one end, we are providing solution in data leak prevention, our DLP cloud product, Alex Ouyang announced yesterday, right? But to provide a solution without actually using it and experimenting and do yourself, it's not the best approach, right? So certainly, as engineers, how do you harness all the energy internally? Now you also leverage the best, right? So we made a bet, right, on Google's platforms. We made it pretty simple. So all the concerns about governance, tons of pages and pages of lawyer paperwork, because our data is already on GCP, fast forward, getting Vertex engine, we were able to start experimentation. Having access to SecPom, we were able to proceed with experiments, right? So in the case, we kind of went into this with eyes wide open, knowing that in that training data, without our training data, may not perform the best, right? So I think the humbly approach of working together, giving feedback, we are improving. I think I would say we help improve Google's version of SecPom that's providing to us. In turn, that enables us to do better, right? So aside from the product for customers, now let's talk about the problems that we are also trying to resolve ourselves internally. We need to get better. We need to be able to be more efficient, right? So we can go tackle the biggest problems.
And I think that's a very good angle of you as a customer of Google Cloud are also a very big customer. So as a consumer of cloud services, these companies also have to protect their own environment. So that perspective will be very interesting as well.
That's right. I think the problem in cybersecurity is a fairly durable one. It's a challenge where you're constantly trying to improve your protection for our customers without you're treading carefully with all the guardrails. You don't have false positives, right? That's the forever. You want your disposition from machine learning, which I think that's bread and butter for us now. 75% of all dispositions today, one way or another, across the portfolio is AI based, right? So now how do you tackle the last percent with generative AI, right? How do you do that furthermore so you automate more so our human intelligence around the globe, the guys that are working 24/7, is able to tackle the last bit. It's approaching infinity. I think that's a hard and challenging portion of the problem. So it's not a product, but today, the largest customers, whether using SASE or semantic SASE, using our endpoint, using DLP, using CASB, whatever, right? If you were to submit an ILC to Symantec today, the response, the description you get back may be assisted by generative AI that we have put in production. Okay, it's limited use, but we want to make sure we're doing this right. Make sure we're not causing false positives or issues in your most critical infrastructure, right? I think that's actually the key of understanding as we grow with the largest enterprises.
Now, it's exciting to hear even the kind of feedback loop from customers and how it gets embedded into the product. That whole thing will get speeded up with Gen AI. It's so exciting. I think the security industry as a whole and how customers protect their environments will be completely different in a year with Gen AI kind of powering and helping in many different areas.
Yeah.
So one common question, Harvey, that we get and folks are looking at is the size of these models, right? As a lot of companies are looking at building these models, and then eventually the security teams that are in the room as well will be looking at how do we protect those models. So how are you guys, based on, you guys are heavily involved in Gen AI and AI work, how are you seeing open source models versus companies looking at a platform like Vertex to build their AI solutions? How is that evolving?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, just like any computer science problem, right? You kind of, you look at the problem, it's not like a one size fits all, right? There are very, very sophisticated things. You probably need a frontier model, the large model, the large foundation model from Google, of, OpenAI of the world to help you to sort of give you that frontier performance. But then there are, other use cases, right? Smaller model, maybe 7 billion parameters or smaller, that's sufficient enough to do what you want to do. It's almost like, if you look at a computer, right, PC, there's a, Intel CPU and then there are a gazillion chips, right? It's not like one CPU does everything. So the way I look at it is there is a need for the frontier model to have better and better performance. That's what we are working with Google team a lot, right, on a daily basis. Pushing back and forth, and hopefully, get better and better, for our solution and for the Google model, and then, overall for customer to have a better solution. But then, there are always, plenty of use cases that a smaller model, open source model would be sufficient. We are also, even for open source model, we work with Google. Hopefully, Google is going to, scale the operation inference of those, open source model as well. So I see a need for frontier model to, advance, even 10x from here on in the next few years. But I also see that an open source model, as is today, it can already solve a lot of the interesting problems.
Yeah, perfect. And Ashwin, there was kind of, in your world, you see a lot of on-prem and cloud and hybrid world. So how would this adoption of Gen AI evolve in this kind of mixed environment world as well?
Yeah, so I think we'll be looking at hybrid models, right? Some is so sensitive and so secure, not only in sort of the business line I work in, but our company does a lot of defense-related work as well. So we have classification of the security levels. So for that, we almost have to say, hey, the LLM and the entire data repositories will be on-prem, but there'll be sort of more of a tiered hierarchy, right, where some of the data can reside in a cloud AI platform, such as Vertex AI, and we'll leverage that. So we're still early in how we actually go to the extreme levels of security and assurance. And I think Google is also working on high assurance workloads and how to handle that. So we'll be collaborating and thinking about those things.
Yeah. Perfect. Joe, your perspective?
Well, I like what Howie's one notion around no one size fits all. I think that's the impetus of kind of the problem, and especially the largest enterprises, the sophisticated environments they're in, they're all different. So I would say, kind of since the acquisition of Broadcom Symantec, we were able to kind of look at this customized solution in such a way that provide a tailored suit for every single customer. It's a tailor-made custom solution. What we call adaptive security. It's gotta be tailor fit to meet the customer's need. That's different. That's uniquely, that's different. That's unique for their environment, right? So that's really beautiful. And I think having generative AI only accelerates our ability to be able to make that tailor-made suit and do it so much faster for our customer. I think that's a key enabler for us to be successful.
Perfect. I think another important topic and top of mind for folks now is that the developers have started building Gen AI applications, adopting Gen AI in the cloud as well. Now the security practitioners have the task of securing those applications. So how are you guys thinking about what Palo Alto would do to have solutions that protect these applications that are being built and are powered by Gen AI? And how does it kind of pan out between a platform approach versus companies may decide to build their own models? So how would security address those different kind of use cases as well?
Yeah, I think, the generative AI technology has evolved very fast in the last half a year or so, right? Ever since, the thing, it didn't come out last year, but, sort of get a popularity, since end of last year. I think that's probably true to say. And a lot has happened in the last half a year or so, right? Most enterprises went from didn't know anything about generative AI to, right? Everyone's talking about generative AI within roughly half a year or so. So I think naturally, first, a lot of customers, our own customers, are apprehensive about, hey, this thing, what if the sensitive information got leaked or whatnot? First thing they ask is, hey, is there any way to block the access to it, right? Not necessarily the best thing to do in the long term, but that's sort of immediate sort of reaction from some of the customers. So we give them that choice. Our NGA firewall, has that functionality so that if you really want to do it, you have the capability to do that, right? But what you are asking is, more long term, right? It's actually, this is a more just one sort of a black and white solution, but in the long run, we want, in the world, so here's how I see it, right? Everyone has heard about Copilot, assistant, right? Bots, chatbots or whatnot. I think, in a few years, I think in a few short years, not like 5 or 10 years, likely in less than 5 years, we're going to have, lots of Copilots, right? You've heard of Copilots from some major companies. You will hear the concept from us, you will hear from, many other. Every enterprise software, every potentially security company will have their Copilot. And in that world, right, how do we make sure that, those, first-class citizens, the Copilot will be safe, right? And that's a big deal, right? Because we're it's like a cloud came in the last decade. Now we are trying to protect all the entities on the cloud. Same thing with the Copilot, right? When the Copilot became the first-class citizen over the next few years. Today it's in the PR, but in the next few years it will be in the deployment. And how do we protect them? How do we make sure they are safe? Clearly, Palo Alto Network being the largest security company, it is something in the works, And one thing I would say is, for our own, the generative AI solution, Copilot or assistant like a technology we are going to announce or launch or, give to the customers. We'll do a lot of the red teaming, all those things ourselves, right? Just like, it's a new platform and it's a new entity. And then a lot of those technologies are going to be relevant for, gazillion other Copilots out there. So we wanted to sort of be, give that as a product to our customers as well. So it will come,
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's a fast evolving space.
Yeah.
I think we're working very closely with the key players in the security industry, trying to kind of come up with standards as well. So as folks are looking at Gen AI applications and trying to figure out how do I secure it, there are more standards that they could follow, more NIST-like standards or other alliances that companies form. So it becomes easier to protect Gen AI applications as they are built. So Ashwin, what are you hearing from customers and what are their concerns? How are they thinking about security of the apps that are coming out the door very quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's still early, all right? And so far, not too much in terms of specifics about, hey, how is generative AI going to impact the applications?
Yeah.
Or how are you securing it? For us, we are a security company as well, right? And a data security company. Secure by design and privacy by design are core tenets of what we do. So I think what we have to answer to customers is an extension of our data privacy policies and disclose, how we are using generative AI in any of the services or products, and what are the guardrails we have in place, because the customers will ask, right? But it's also sort of a leap of faith and a testament. If you've been to the expo hall, you'll see companies like Deutsche Bank, who's there, showcasing how they are building their own apps,
yeah.
Right? So I think they will naturally be a lot more cautious, and they're making that leap of faith and actually experimenting with these generative AI models. And we will support them, right? And the feedback that we get will actually
implement.
take it back to Google as well, right? And together we'll put enough guardrails and make sure that data privacy, data residency types of requirements are always met, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Joe, any things you're hearing from customers? Still early days, some initial feedback on customers, what problems they're thinking about?
Yeah, I'll give you two examples. One external, maybe one internal discussions. The external one would be, hey, Joe, largest banks. Hey, is it possible for your web categorization to categorize all the URLs that we can possibly be related to OpenAI, generative AI use cases, so we can apply a policy whether allow or deny, right? So that's a very real one. So they can apply a policy. So that exists today in all the network related products offered by Symantec. So that itself, by the way, we are applying generative AI to be able to help us categorize generative AI categories of URLs. And two, internally, I think the largest security problem is years ago we target attacks, the most sophisticated nation state attacks, right? Symantec came out with Stuxnet paper. Internally, so the question we always ask is like, how do we produce and replicate the generative model of the brains of Lian or Marchu, who's in the audience with us, and Eric Chen, the guys that use data to be able to, the first one to kind of disclose his nation state attacks, right? How do we do that? So that's a big question, and that's the approach kind of we're thinking about. So with the most complex problems that these most sophisticated attacker will always employ the most sophisticated tools, and we're fairly happy that we are. We're riding on leveraging on some pretty great partnerships here. So we think we're going to do well.
Yeah, and the internal thing is coming up a lot, right? Because we have all the developers or anyone else who wants to use generative AI, generate the code, or can we use that? Law is a little ambiguous, right? What are the copyrights and all that stuff? So got to be very careful. And our CISO would be concerned about, are we sharing our confidential information to these platforms?
In a way, it's a great thing. I think you guys, building your own SaaS services, you have to kind of think about protecting your own assets as well. So you're almost dog fooding your own products before they go out. So I think the innovation, it will help speed up the innovation because you're kind of going through that customer life cycle on your own.
Makes it more real, right?
More real.
So it's a shared problem, shared challenges.
Yeah. So I think we'll leave 5 minutes for questions, but one last round of question that may be interesting. So I'll go, Joe, starting with you this time. Any one area that you feel security practitioners would be delighted if you look, a couple of years out, which problem do you think will be most impacted with what Gen AI can bring to the table?
Customization. Ability to do very time-consuming, complex, descriptive customization. My engineers will say, especially the guys who are really good at reverse, they're really good at assembly language, but they're not good at English. But they will be excited that they will take over the jobs that they don't really enjoy doing, so they can focus on other things, more important jobs. But I think customization to allow an adaptive world where the adversary is also constantly evolving with the newest tools. I look forward to kind of see what's to come there.
There was some discussion in the industry. It'll be interesting world of LLMs trying to attack and LLMs trying to defend as well. So it's a very, very interesting world.
Yeah.
Ashvin,
I think there's a lot to be sort of thinking about, right? I think you now have to bring these whole AI platforms and LLMs into your threat universe. The attack vectors are going to change. So you're going to have things like data poisoning. What if all the data that you're trying to use to train the models is going to be poisoned, right? Or there's model stealing that could happen. There are sort of, all these new threat vectors that are going to come into play. And I think for security practitioners, and I'll just quote what Google and others are doing already collaboratively to create a secure AI framework, right? I think they have some good sort of recommendations on how do you want to sort of extend what practices you already have, the foundations, right? The shift left software development pipelines to threat research, to be inclusive of these AI platforms, inclusive of the large language models, so that you don't have those breaches happening, right, in these platforms. So these are new platforms coming into your threat universe. So I think some standards and collaboration with NIST and all that is already happening. And I think there'll be some good recommendations that practitioners should implement.
Perfect. Yeah. Howie, what should security practitioners should be looking forward to in the next 6 months, 12 months?
Yeah. So I think, with the generative AI conversation in the last, many months, right? A lot of people are asking, hey, is the security, or actually not just more than security, just the professionals' jobs are going to be gone or replaced, all that sort of things, right? So to answer your question, I think for the quite foreseeable future, right? In the next 2 or 3 years, I actually see that a security professional's life is going to get better and better. Before I even get to the better and the better, I give you one stat, right? In the last 5 or 10 years or so, at a given time, there are approximately 4 million security professional openings unfilled, meaning that we need a lot more security professionals, but we cannot fill the job. That's a constant stat in the last 5 or 10 years, and even to fill that hole, right? We need a lot, let alone the job being replaced or not. One of the products in my team, in my organization, is the AI Ops. The idea of the AI Ops is to replace a lot of the repetitive stuff that people are doing, right? The mission we have is actually really to reimagine how people are doing the cybersecurity. Think about all the sort of the CPU is busy, or that there is that issue. I need to replace a part. I need to do. We want the AI to know this information ahead of you, so that the tickets are filed or the issue is remediated before you even do this, right? So that you can focus on the more higher level, the more business related work. Given that there's so many unfilled, so many openings out there, people are doing repetitive stuff, right? I think life will be better. Now, that being said, just like any technology, cloud, the generative AI, the technology will be used by the good guys, by the vendors, can be used by the bad guys. So I'm not saying that everything will be rosy. Just because we leverage this technology, we are going to, make your life better. The bad guys are going to, also giving more and more challenges. That's why the cybersecurity world is an evergreen, interesting industry, right? But that being said, I do fully anticipate a lot of the stuff, like my own team is doing with the AI Ops, with the ADAM, with all the automated stuff, right? It's going to make your life far better and more, you can resolve issues faster.
Perfect.
Reduce toil, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think this was very intriguing discussion. I think I'm looking forward to how this evolves and how we collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.